Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. The day has come when it is now time to weld all of the tie intercooler tubes for the Del Sol. So off camera, I went ahead and I put the final titanium Vangean flange on, as well as the blow-off valve flange. So all the tubes are fully fabricated with all their flanges and everything else they need to be able to be welded now. So I'm going to pull them off of the car, do a final once over with a clean rag and acetone, obviously gloved up as well. Make sure they are as clean as I can possibly make them. And then I will get my wonderful flare torch right here. This thing, I'm still amazed that you don't need some sort of a license to have it, as it is essentially a flamethrower. But I'll bring that over and we can anodize these tubes, and they opted to go with, I believe, a light blue on them. And once they're anodized, then it will be weld time. So without further ado, let me pull these tubes off, get them cleaned, and then we can get to hitting them with a little bit of fire. I look forward to working with tie, especially anodizing it, as I get to play around with fire, and that's pretty cool. But with that being said, we have the tubes anodized, resting here on the creeper, and they are ready to weld. So we're going to start with the lower tube, as it has the most welds, and as we talked about in the manifold video for this car, if you start with the least visible first, that allows you to knock off the dust and get into a groove, especially switching between materials as often as I do. It's hard to remain 100% current on any particular material when you're doing stainless one day, aluminum the next, titanium, working with Inco, etc., etc. So with that being said, we'll start with this tube. We'll start with this side of the tube and work our way across it. Go this one, we'll do the lower half of the cold side tube and finish off with the upper half of the cold side tube. And then everything will be all welded up and ready to go. So I'll go ahead, throw this one up on the bench, get my purge apparatus assembled and ready to push all the oxygen out the inside of it, and then we can get to welding. After a long day of welding, we have fully welded titanium intercooler tubes for the Del Sol. They're on the ground right over my right shoulder. Let's take a look at them. So there is the finished product, and man, do they look awesome. So a nice blue anodizing throughout, and as you saw, we did that before. Went ahead and welded, so that way you have a crystal clear weld with the anodizing burnt off around. And if you know what you're looking for, if you look at these waves on the outside of the weld, you can actually see where I started and stopped. You can see how much heat was applied, so on and so forth. So I am stoked with how these things came out. And the one last thing I want to do with the tubes right now is to install them on the car, because I'm dying to see how they look in the engine bay. So let's go ahead and do that, and then we can take a look at it. There we have it. All of the blue tubes under the hood of the Del Sol, looking awesome. So everything still fits up well after welding, which is great. You know, sometimes even with tubing, you can have the pieces move and pull, and thankfully these weren't pie cut bends, which the more welds you have, the more chance of things moving around that you also have. So we have these fit in here. They look awesome. Obviously this is the cold side here, and the hot side, you can see if you look down through there, everything is sweet. So I am absolutely stoked with how these came out. It's my first time using these mandrel bends, or these mandrel elbows, on an intercooler system, or well, I guess it's the second time I've done it, but so much nicer than using pie cuts, and it looks so much cleaner in my opinion as well. But I can't say enough how stoked I am with this. So thankfully, these intercooler tubes do not end the titanium work for this car, as we still have to build the wastegate dump tube. That won't be happening today. I've been sweating all day. I'm ready to get out of here, but in the next couple of days I can come in and get that built and take you guys along for the ride with it. So I will see you guys then, and we will knock out the tie wastegate dump tube to complete the titanium work on the Del Sol. And we are back to build the Del Sol's wastegate dump tube. So I laid the materials out here on the bench. We have a section of straight, we have a mandrel elbow, and we have the outlet flange. So the wastegate is located, can we see it from here? Yeah, if you can look down through there, it's tucked up underneath of everything there. So it should be a pretty simple little dump tube, and I hope so at least. So I will slide underneath and mark out where that bend will need to be cut, if it needs to be cut, that is. Can make that cut and then get to building the rest of the dump tube. So it looks like this bend wants to be a 45 to run the tube where I want it to exit at. So I'll go ahead and I will mark out my cut line on this mandrel elbow. Same as we did with the 2.5 inch bends. I will spray it down with some anti-spatter. I can make my cut, and then we can figure out the length of straight that needs to be put on this as well. So that ended up being a pretty quick little project to build the wastegate dump tube, and here is the finished result. So I put a little bit of a burn on the tip of it, but not on any of the other portions of it, as unlike the cold side tubing, this will get hot enough where it will anodize and change color naturally, which anytime that I'm building exhaust components out of titanium, I do like to leave them natural so that way you can get the actual dynamic heat change with them that looks pretty cool. So this came out nicely, and not sure if you'll be able to see very well, but nice full penetration welds both on the flange and on the butt weld, and no color throughout, very silver crystal clear. So very happy with how this came out. So I'm not going to fully install this right now, as I do need to pull the wastegate back off and put the actual TurboSmart clamp on it, but I can go underneath with my mock clamp and a C-clamp and roughly fasten this on so that way we can see what it looks like in all of its glory underneath the car. And we have the dump tube underneath of the Del Sol. So don't run into the race ramp, but there is our finished product. And I did a nice miter cut on it that sits pretty much parallel to the ground, which I like doing this more than teardrops. And it sits up higher than the exhaust, so there is really no chance that this will hit the ground unless they essentially ramp the car, which I really hope they don't, the customers don't do. But came out nice. I was not able to use a C-clamp, so you can see my zip tie there. A little bit too tight of confines for that. But that is an end to all of the tie work on this car. So I am stoked with the way that this all came out. And just look at that. All the blue, everything throughout. Man, that looks absolutely killer. So with all of that work being done now, I think that will be an end to this video. So as always, be sure to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.